Hey guys, Jay here. Let's have a look at a pretty tricky one. This is actually 4 pie charts, which you may get on test day as well. It would look something like this. And while the brain sort of freaks out and you want to run home and just go to bed and watch Netflix, but you don't have to, because you can simply spend some time analyzing this before you write, and the complexity will reduce. So let's do that. Let's work out what these pie charts are about, all 4 of them. The pie charts below, or to the right, show the frequency of snacking in children while playing electronic games. So in other words, they show how frequently these kids ate snacks while playing video games. How frequently did they eat snacks while playing video games? Well, we've got girls from 6 to 8 years old. We've got boys from 6 to 8 years old. And what's the frequency? Well, yes, no, sometimes, and rarely. I guess yes isn't really a frequency, it just means they did. Fine. So yes is 70% did, no 6% didn't, 24% sometimes, and rarely was 0%. If you have a look here, it's exactly the same. In fact, these 2 pie charts, 6 and 6, 24 and 24, 0 and 0, 70 and 70, they're identical. Let's have a look at the 9 to 12-year-old for girls from the private school, and then we've got boys 9 to 12 from a public school, just to add some complexity. All right, so yes, so the girls 9 to 12 in the private school, 35%. Yes, for the boys in the public school, it was higher at 40%. Sometimes the girls at 48%, the boys at 40%. Rarely, 11% compared to 9%. And no, 6% compared to 11%. We can see that the boys in the public schools snacked more regularly while playing video games than the girls in the private school. Okay, how are we going to structure this up? We need a plan to structure it. The basic structure, of course, is like this. You have your summary sentence, talk about well, in this case, the key features, no trends, there's no time dimension, and then you compare the pieces of the pie in a detailed paragraph. But in fact, I'm going to structure this one up a little bit differently, because when I look at this, well, it's pretty tricky. Let me just talk you through my structure here. So I'm going to do the summary, fine. Key features, I'll do a little paragraph about that. Then I'm just going to do a paragraph about this, which, well, there's not going to be much to say because they're identical. This is the one where I'm going to get into details, which is the comparing these 2 here. So that's how I'm going to structure it up. My response will, in fact, will look like this. It's 197 words. Probably doesn't need to be that long, but that's just what happened. Let me take you through it part by part. So, introduction. I said the data provided shows how often children and preteens snack while playing computer games. Okay, preteens being up to 12 years old, not 13. The data is divided by gender only for 6 to 8-year-olds, and by both gender and type of education for preteens. So I've given a bit more description on actually what these pie charts are, a better title, if you will. Overall, the majority of those surveyed ate whilst playing computer games. Only a minority did not take refreshments at all. So I looked at all 4, and I can basically summarize that to say that a majority snacked while playing video games, only a minority didn't. Right, now I'm going to look at the 6 to 8-year-olds, girls and boys. Although the statistics for children aged 6 to 8 are provided for both males and females, the data is identical. 7 out of 10 children snacked when playing games, just under a quarter only snacked sometimes, and only 6% never took refreshments at all. So I've done this in an interesting way. Instead of saying 70%, I've said 7 out of 10, just under a quarter, so that's 24%. And then I've said 6% didn't snack at all. So instead of just saying 70%, 24%, 6%, I've changed that to 7 out of 10, just under a quarter, and 6%, just to show off my language skills. Here, I wrote, the figures are very different for preteens. The percentage of girls who ate whilst playing had dropped to half of the figure for the younger age group. Just under half of that number only snacked sometimes, with 11% rarely taking any form of refreshment. There was no change in this age group for the proportion who did not eat at all. The proportions were fairly similar for boys, quote, in brackets, who this time attended public school. Of the 40% who snacked, 4 out of 10 only partook sometimes. Just over 2 out of 10 either rarely snacked or never ate at all. It's hard to sort of follow along what's going on there, but if you want to pause this and actually read that and then compare it to what I've seen, don't let this make you feel discombobulated or unconfident. There's different ways to do this, okay? So you may structure it up differently within that paragraph itself. I think the overall structure though is a good one because this is a pretty complex set of graphs. Scoring, just quickly before I leave you to do your own practice. Task achievement, you wrote directly about the prompt. You talked about the main features and you compared relevant data. Structure, it's logical and your paragraph is cohesive. Paragraphs are cohesive rather. Vocabulary, you need a wide range. It needs to be accurate and precise. Grammar, same thing, wide range. You want accuracy as well, okay? Rock and roll. Your turn to go now and do some practice. Write one of these yourself. After you do it, it's easy. You start to just get the hang for this sort of thing. When you look at it, you freak out, you think you can't do it. Practice it, you can do it. Submit one for some for some feedback. We'll tell you what we think. Cool.